May I come?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shubham Shukla.
Sir.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Take the
Thank
chair.
And Mr. Shukla, you are from Gora Bazar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very great place. And Dum Central Jail is quite famous for having some freedom fighters. Do you know this? Some freedom fighters were imprisoned. Way back,
So I remember Bagha Jatin was imprisoned once there in the Dum correctional facility, but
Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Okay. Shubham,
So
we are talking of
Technique.
solid waste. You have heard of ash bricks.
yes, sir. Very recently, we've come across the term called ash bricks.
So, what is the impact they have on structural strength of a building?
So if I remember reading correctly, the tensile strength of these bricks, like the tensile strength of these bricks have actually increased. So they are able to withstand shear a lot better. And hence the fly ash has been actually mixed in.
Okay. Have you also heard of space bricks?
No, sir, I haven't heard.
No problem. Also, Calcutta, the city that you come from,
Yes, sir.
was British capital for 100 years, 90 years.
Yes, sir.
And Delhi was only much later.
Yes, sir.
But all iconic leaders that came from Bengal, they talked of either cosmopolitan nationalism, Rabindranath Tagore, for example,
Yes, sir.
or national, all India national, Netaji Subhash Bose.
Yes, sir.
Bengal has very strong linguistic identity, right?
Yes, sir.
And if Sonar Bangla was to come true, including Bay of Bengal, Andaman, Nicobar's, it will be within the top 10 countries in the world based on population.
Yes, sir.
Why has nationalism not been the trait? Only liberation of East Bengal happened in very different circumstances. Why was there a lack of sense of nationalism among Bengalis?
So I do not.
Bengali nationalism, not Indian nationalism.
So I do not agree to the fact that Bengalis at any point of time lacked nationalism or the Bengali nationalism, sir. So there have been certain issues that have plagued the Bengal polity for, especially after independence, sir. And this had actually led to Bengal not actually reaching its potential or punching way below its weight.
We are talking of total Bengal, East-West combined.
Yes, sir.
Bay of Bengal, Andaman, Nicobar's. It's a huge community
Yes,
of
sir.
Bengali-speaking community,
Yes, sir.
and language is such a strong identity. British were ruling. You can go back to East India Company,
Yes, sir.
the Bengal province, all that time. But their imagination of liberation only happened when rest of India stood up, and they joined rest of India to stand up to. Why it is that in those hundreds of years when Bengal province controlled from Calcutta, Fort Williams
Yes, sir.
was being ruled by a foreigner ethnic community, why that nationalism never erupted?
So the process of emergence of nationalism in West Bengal was a slow process, but at the same time, emergence of nationalism, Bengal was one of the first centers where nationalism grew. Like we had the Zamindar Sabha as early as the early 19th century, sir. So it was a process in itself, sir. Secondly, the province was very huge. Like it was one of the biggest provinces in India. Like we had the Bihar, Odisha, parts of East Bengal, parts of Assam as well in the Bengal province. So there were many internal disparities and as well as internal development indicators weren't on that part, which prevented the emergence of a common identity.
Okay, let me shift, ask a related question. Huge debate these days of whether India's independence was result of a peaceful protest, a non-violent protest led by Mahatma Gandhi, or was that it had only a limited contribution. What's your take on it? There's a whole debate to revisit that
Yes, sir.
proportion, the role that Gandhi had and role that the other more violent, aggressive leaders of national movement had.
Yes, sir.
What is your thinking on it?
So,
These are opinionated questions. I mean, I'm asking your opinion on these issues.
So, in my opinion, sir, the freedom struggle or India winning freedom from British cannot be called as an effort or an effect of one man's journey. I'll agree that Mahatma Gandhi probably had one of the most critical roles to play in guiding and shaping the Indian national movement and the values of the movement as well. But then, sir, we cannot actually ignore the role of the revolutionaries, which did not stick to the path of ahimsa, sir. Even in the 1942 Quit India movement was violent to an extent, and Gandhiji himself has been said that he did not interfere in when the movement became violent. The Royal Navy strikes of 1946, then the strikes in the civil administration, role of revolutionaries, all of these.
Okay, let's
combined
shift to another.
Bipin Pal was also
Yes, sir,
part
and then early revolutionaries of Bengal.
of,
Sir.
was part of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes, sir.
Okay, move to another subject. We're also talking of supply chains.
Yes, sir.
What is the supply chain resilience initiative?
So I remember reading about the initiative, but I am not sure about the exact factual details of it.
Okay, I heard your interest in Japan.
Yes, sir.
Japan has initiated this,
Yes, sir.
bringing India, Australia along with. Anyway, I thought Japan and your focus on supply chains will.
I remember the three countries like coming together, but
Okay, let me ask you debate on supply chain itself.
yes, sir.
Experts are saying that mention of chain evokes the sense of colonial times. Supply chains existed. Indigo farming versus Manchester, a small town becoming a global industrial center.
Yes, sir.
So they are contesting whether production chains, value chain should be called chain. Some of them recommend it should be called network, or some of them say it should be called system. So between calling this reality of all countries being connected in production and consumption and distribution, what will be your choice? Chain, network, or system, and why?
So if we go by the academic definition of the things, sir, I would stick with supply chain being used because the principles and all driving this interconnectedness is based on supply chain management and supply chain analysis. However, given the current realities and the colonial perspective that is being talked about, supply chain networking or supply chain webs would be a better indication because
Okay,
it's not linear.
your optional is PSIR.
Yes, sir.
Are you interested more in PS or IR?
So IR, sir.
IR. You're not meaning current affairs.
Sorry, sir.
You're not meaning current affairs. IR is not just current affairs.
So it would be a combination of things like
Okay. Okay. What is defensive realism?
So the school of defensive realism talks about a country wherein a global system wherein
Defensive realism.
yes, sir, wherein the countries are actually country is actually protecting its national interest, but not in an offensive sense of things as what we call.
Any name, who's the proponent of defensive realism? Because you're not explaining it right. Do you remember who's the proponent of defensive realism?
I remember reading about it, but I cannot recall the name, sir.
Okay, so when you say international relations, what is the difference between international relations when it is written with uppercase IR and lowercase IR?
I'm not sure.
I and R.
Yes, sir.
You make the uppercase and lowercase, the meaning changes.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not aware.
Okay, that's why when you say international relations, it's not current affairs, because you perhaps thought I'll ask you about Bangladesh-India relations.
I was expecting that, sir.
So tell me which is, last question from me, which specific area you want me to ask you?
So the current affairs part of IR.
Current affairs part of it. Then tell me what is the full form of BIMSTEC and why is it relevant? Was it in news recently and why was it in news recently?
So BIMSTEC stands for Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral technical and economic
It's a
cooperation.
good current affairs preparation.
Yes. And like it's a grouping of countries primarily surrounding the Bay of Bengal regions and a couple of countries hinterland to it. And it's of very important relevance nowadays because of an upcoming summit. Recently, a group level discussion happened on the BIMSTEC.
Upcoming
Yes, a summit. Sorry, sir. Like a summit on like a BIMSTEC summit happened, and there's another one in pipeline in the month of September or October 2022. So, this is an important focus that.
How are you, Shubham?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
Where are you staying in Delhi?
Ma'am, Old Rajendra Nagar.
Old Rajendra Nagar. Okay. When is your interview date?
Ma'am, 18th May.
18th May, right? You have sufficient time. But you stayed East Champaran district. Yes. Can you tell me the historic relevance of Champaran?
Ma'am, Champaran was a major agrarian town for a long period of time, and it was also the site of the famous Champaran Satyagraha conducted by Gandhiji. So, this is the historic relevance of the place.
What was the outcome of Champaran Satyagraha?
Ma'am, the Champaran Satyagraha ultimately led to the immediate outcome of the Champaran Satyagraha was the relief for the indigo farmers. The Tin-Khatia system was gradually abolished from the region, and by end of 1919, the entire system of indigo farming got uprooted from the Mithilanchal area.
Right. Okay. You have written plogging as an extracurricular activity.
Yes, ma'am.
So, where is these ploggings are happening?
Ma'am, on a personal level, if you're asking that, I did this plogging activity with the student council members at BITS Pilani and with my few friends in Kolkata. I haven't done this activity post the COVID scenario because of restrictions on going outdoors. But this activity was conducted, and even in India, if you say Pune is a major hotspot of plogging.
Okay, but we see so much of littering in Delhi also.
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
think any such initiative has been taken in Delhi also?
Ma'am, any initiative which combines physical activity with waste management, ma'am, I'm unaware about it.
Okay. You are especially a fan of FC, Barcelona, I see.
Yes, ma'am.
So why is India not in a good position in football, particularly this sport?
Ma'am, there are a couple of reasons why India is not a good football nation as some other nations. The first would be lack of infrastructure, and by infrastructure I would mean 3 Fs: the funds, the functions, and the facilities. And the second reason would be lack of icons or ideals. In cricket, we are talking about Sachin, Sehwag, Dhoni. In football, we probably talk about Messi or Ronaldo. We'll rarely talk about Sunil Chhetri or Baichung Bhutia or Subroto Pal. And the third reason would be lack of sufficient international exposure. By exposure, I'll talk about tournaments, I'll talk about good quality coaches. So these are a couple of reasons.
If you can tell me 3 points that how we can improve the position of football as a sport in nation, what 3 initiative can you take?
First would be bringing kids to the football field. So conducting football related exercises like football camps in prominent places. Second would be creating good quality infrastructure. I'm talking about turfs, I'm talking about medical facilities, I'm talking about training kits and training ball. And the third step would be having frequent tournaments on various scales, from the school level or an area level to a greater level. Like Kolkata has a very vibrant football culture because almost every hamlet has some sort of football tournament once every 6 months or 7 months. So this is something that can be scaled up in other parts of the country.
In Kolkata, there is a very beautiful football stadium also.
Yes, ma'am.
What is its name?
Ma'am, Yuva Bharti Kridangan.
Okay, right. You also talked about the supply chain management.
Yes,
Have
ma'am.
you heard of Weber's industrial model?
No, ma'am.
Have you heard of how the transportation plays a very important role into fixing the prices?
Yes, ma'am. I remember going through a formula which factors in there's a mathematical formula which factored in the about the transportation costs and determining the economic order quantity and thus determining the price level, but I'm unable to recall the specific details.
Okay, no issues. Why do you want to be an IAS officer?
Ma'am, I want to be an IAS officer because I feel I have the potential, I have the talents, and I have had relevant leadership positions in my school and my college days, which would make me someone who's actually a good worker at the ground level, someone who can empathize with the people, and someone to whom if the people come, they'll be assured that we won't be going home empty-handed, or we will be going back home with an expectation or result. So this is why I want to be an IAS.
So, do you think being an IAS officer will make you happy? Is your happiness related with the civil servant?
Ma'am, I feel that I'm someone who is happy working on the ground level, talking to people, like trying to help people in some way or the other. So yes, being an IAS officer would definitely make me more happy. But in general, I'm happy. Like even in my present state, I'm happy.
Okay. I have a last question for you.
Yes.
Let's take a situational question. Imagine you have a subordinate and he is very loyal, he is very good, he has his way through the people. He is making your professional life very easy. You can rely on him. He is ready with all the data, all the figures, all the planning you require. But you have heard this news and it is in your gut feeling also that he is becoming a corrupt person. So what would you do? Would you just warn him and let him go, or would you suspend him? What actions would you take? But remember, he is a very, very important asset to you.
Ma'am, the role of human capital, especially in bureaucracy, is unparalleled. But at the same time, a good human capital cannot be justified of like doing any activity which is against the rules of the service. Under such a circumstances, the first thing I would do is I would actually create a committee that would actually investigate any claims or any reports as such. If any official reports have been filed, a committee in the office level would be created which would actually investigate. Till the time something like that is not, I would actually send him on a leave. Once the result of the committee is out, I would actually figure out the next course of action. If he is guilty of it, I'll actually make a proper complaint as per as the rules of the organization. If not, I'll actually ask him to continue and be mindful that sometimes we can step into the grey areas very unknowingly. So this would serve as a warning for him as well as for the others. So this would be my course of action.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shubham, you come from Raxol.
Yes.
So if we see India after independence and the present India, Raxol and Nepal, there's a lot of movement of people
Yes, ma'am.
moving. So what is the reason that people from Raxol moving to Nepal? And they're even settling. It's not even movement going in the morning and coming back in the evening. Lots of people have been settled there.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the biggest reason is a cultural history that predates the independence era. Like India and Nepal have had this what we call a roti beti ka rishta. So, and plus the Terai regions of Nepal have populations from the Mithilanchal province. So the people frequently marry and move to the other side of the border as well. So this is the biggest reason. Other than that, there is business and all, which is on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So now we have our borders open with the Nepal.
Yes, ma'am.
So if in the coming scenarios or in the coming time, if the borders, there's a strictness over the borders, or we do have a visa structures and all that coming up with the India and the Nepal relations, will the people of Raxol and the Nepal, that strata, would be disturbed here?
Ma'am, creating a visa regime or creating any obstructions on the border would definitely impact the people on the both sides of the fence. But at the same time, a proper mechanism will be created by the government, wherein the movement of people, especially having familial ties on both sides of the border, will not be affected in such a major way. So initially for a couple of months or in a year or so, there might be some hassle, but in the long term, it will uniform out.
Okay. So do you know about the 6th schedule?
Yes, ma'am. I have a faint idea about it.
Okay. Recently, they were talking about that Ladakh to be included in the 6th schedule.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of
Yes,
that?
ma'am. I've heard
What
about
is that talking about?
Ma'am, it's like the 6th schedule has certain special provisions for states which have a significant tribal population, and due to which there is a level of cultural difference with the mainland. So there are demand by the Ladakhis that Ladakh be included in the 6th schedule. This is what I know of the event.
Okay, no issues. In a parliament, we use the term on the floor of the house. On
Yes,
the floor of the parliament.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
use a particular term on the floor. What is that talking about?
Ma'am, if I'm
That
not
paper is laid on the floor of the house, or this person is talking on the floor of the house.
Ma'am, I'm unaware about the technical definition of the term, but on a very generalist perspective, I would say on the floor means it is open for the members on the chair to of the parliament to of the house to like see and scrutinize.
Okay, no issues. As you're from PSIR, there's a term called track to diplomacy.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
Ma'am, track to diplomacy involves the non-governmental channels in dealing with the country. For example, if two countries are engaging in track one diplomacy, it is the governments and the bureau and the external affairs that is dealing with them. But if it's a track to diplomacy, it's on a more interpersonal or an informal level. For example, like negotiators would be an important factor in track to diplomacy.
Suppose you are an STM in some district now. As an STM, it is your responsibility to conduct some interviews. Suppose, take an example for ASHA workers, you have to hire someone and you are interviewing someone. Now, a MP from the constituency comes to you and says that you have to hire this lady for the particular post you are interviewing. Now, looking at the criteria and the eligibility, you see that she comes into all of that perspective. She is eligible to become an ASHA worker. So in that situation, what would you do?
If the person is eligible to be an ASHA worker and meets the criteria, I would actually hire her. Like, I do not think there's any reason not to hire her when she meets all the criteria. But then at the same time, I would actually ask the concerned MP to not interfere in the process and let me make my decision based on facts of the case.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Shubham.
Good afternoon, sir.
You worked as a teacher
Yes, sir.
at Akash Institute,
Yes.
chemistry faculty.
Yes, sir.
Why you chose that particular subject which is full of exceptions?
So two reasons, sir. First of all, I was a good student of chemistry in my school, in my college days, my school days. And the second reason was in my first couple of attempts at this examination, I had chemistry as my optional. So I thought, like, if I'm working as well as with chemistry as my optional, it would be like killing two birds with one stone. And unfortunately, the stone
Which are
fell
these two words?
like managing a job and like clearing UPSC as well. But unfortunately, the stone fell right on my face and I had to quit my jobs.
Okay. So that particular stone you have kept aside, thrown away, and decided to choose another stone. Huh?
Yes, sir. Like,
Okay, no problem. If there is a situation in the class, 5-6 students are weak in your class, you need to keep the speed of the syllabus at an optimum level or else the syllabus won't be completed. What is the priority? To focus on those 5-6 kids who are weak in the class if the class is of 50?
yes, sir.
Or you'll focus on the syllabus speed?
So, as a teacher, I'll have to focus on both of them. I cannot actually leave behind 5 or 6 students. And at the same time, I cannot actually ruin the speed of the flow of the class because I have to complete classes in a certain number of scheduled days. So I'll continue with the pace of the class and I'll try to make the students that whatever pace they are understanding. And if the need be, I'll hold some extra classes as per as
No possibility of extra class. Your schedule is too tight. You cannot give them even 20 minutes. Then
I'll try to simplify the classes in such a way that the students who are actually not like doing it on a very greater level, they are able to keep up with the pace of the class.
So in your opinion, you are doing well, but after the feedback which came later on, half of the class said that the teacher is too slow and focusing on those 5-6 kids, explaining things in such a slow manner that we are lagging in the syllabus. And management is on you now, telling you, pushing you to leave those 5-6 students and focus on finishing the syllabus. Now what will you do?
So I could try it and
You did your best, but the feedback is like this. What can you do?
so such an event can happen anywhere. So,
Then what will be your stand?
under such a situation, I can actually try convincing the management for some sort of extra remedial classes or
Akash Institute is a private institute.
yes, sir.
They'll throw you out, keep another teacher.
Because
You are willing to keep your job at stake.
Because if it is a last option to do, probably I might have to increase the speed a little bit. But then at the end of the day, sir, I cannot actually leave behind 5 or 6 students. It actually happened with me. I tried to give them a different set of exam questions to solve. And like I gave, like for the students who are doing actually good, and I gave them a different set. And then at the end, I had a doubt clear. I actually took doubt clearing sessions. So it would be very unfair. Like it would be breach of terms if I would actually leave some students behind. So that would be my focus as well.
Okay, good. My next question to you is, you have not opted your home cadre.
Yes, sir.
Any particular reason?
Yes, sir. So I have lived in Kolkata for almost 19 to 20 years of my life, and when becoming an IAS, becoming a good IAS, I need to understand the perspectives and the issues of other parts of the country as well. And
So you will
this
take
is-
another 19 years to understand the parts of the other states so that you can act on them. Don't you think the 19 years of your experience will be so fruitful working in your state?
So that this could have been an advantage, but then it would limit the way in which I could grow. Like, I mean, vertically I would have grown a lot, but then horizontally the expanse of the width would have been impacted. So this is why I actually chose that. Having spent most of my time in Kolkata,
See, someone from the other background, other language background,
yes, sir.
won't be able to understand Bengal much better than you. Don't you think it will be, you could have done much better in your state, knowing the language also?
So definitely, I believe that I could have done a lot better in Kolkata. But then, sir, life is often about pushing ourselves out of the comfort zone. So, and this happens. Many good OS officers have, and officers of the All India services have gone to other states and started from scratch.
So
and
one
done
word,
well.
answer is, one word is diversity in your field.
Diversity, yes.
That is the reason.
Yes.
Okay, no problem. With respect to the international relations, recently we have seen FATF has again put Pakistan in the grey list.
Yes, sir.
Don't you think there should be some kind of a provision if a country is continuously in the grey list, that should be automatically shifted to the black list? Since 2018, Pakistan is in grey list.
Yes, sir.
Again in the grey list. Why not to put it in a black list if continuously the country is in grey list?
So this is a provision that can be included, but then we also need to analyze the extra sanctions that the blacklist brings over the grey list. So we can actually have a two-tiered blacklist, wherein one would be the ones who are directly put into blacklist and the others who have been demoted from the grey list, wherein the demotees could have a lesser level of sanctions in the blacklist. So this could actually...
Do you think any international lobbying is going on in supporting Pakistan that it should not be shifted to the blacklist? What is your opinion in this?
So I have a very limited knowledge of this, sir. But then, given the historical facts that Pakistan at some point or the other has always been backed by a foreign power, there is a very likely reality.
Okay, one point here. My next question is with respect to your plogging activity.
Yes, sir.
If you come across used diapers, do you pick those diapers as well
No,
in the plogging activity?
No, sir.
And any reason?
Sir,
Because that is also a litter?
Yes, sir. First of all, sir, diapers come under the category of the biomedical waste, and also plogging, we usually deal with plastics and litter related waste. So, and second thing, sir, we usually conduct plogging with very basic equipments like a T-bar and a mask and a plastic glove. So I'm not really sure what is the level of safety equipment that I need to handle. So, but we do inform the people that certain stuff is there which needs to be handled by experts or concerned people.
Okay, good. My last question. 2 days before, your Barcelona club has some achievement. Are you aware?
Yes, sir, I am aware.
What is the
2
achievement?
days back, in the Women's Champions League final, Barcelona beat Wolfsburg 5-1, and there was a record attendance of 91,600.
Which team it defeated?
Wolfsburg SV.
Or Madrid?
No, sir, it was Wolfsburg
Sure?
SV. Yes, sir, 200%
Okay.
sure. I watched that match, sir.
Okay, good. Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Shukla,
So,
we have heard you very nice presentation, very thorough,
thank you, sir.
and very nicely done. But have a haircut before going.
Yes,
all
sir.
those things you will, and have this flap coat inside. Huh?
Yes, sir.
So that all. And about Kanchenjunga, you should just say what is the height in the Himalaya region. Don't go in India and Nepal. I only ask this height of
Okay, sir.
second height. And about the application of SCM technology in administration, little more you can study.
People on the other side of the table will be at least twice your age.
Yes, sir.
The moment you're not being yourself, they can find it. Worst case, if you're bluffing something, you're trying to give an answer to please them, don't try that. Give answers that are genuine. Give answers that represent you. It's a personality test, it's not a memory test.
Yes, sir.
So if you don't know about track 2, no problem. It's how you handle it. How you handle situation where you are being asked something that you have no clue of. Just say, I haven't read it. Say it with a smile. For example, track 2. It's not track 2. There's a track 1.5. There's a track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5. That's why when you said international relations, I said, are you really wanting international relations? I'm sure you've studied these things. Also, whenever a Bengali candidate comes, history begins with Mir Qasim. Please, go back. Look into the Paul dynasty, which is where first the imagination of Bengal nation emerges.
Yes.
How with the Mughal Empire coming up in the north, what is the equation between Paul dynasty and the Mughal Empire? And then Suraj-ud-Dawla comes, Mir Qasim comes. How the sense of nationalism which was there at some stage had over time been pushed to the margins and periphery. And that is why you had Bhakti movement, you had enlightenment movement, you had literacy movement, but not nationalism, not anti-British nationalist movement.
Yes, sir.
So think of those kind of serious answers.
How do you feel, Shubham?
I'm feeling good.
Good, like you have done a good interview. Actually, you have done a very good interview. There are few points of my observation. There are a lot of historic places: Champaran, Balia, Buxar, Kanchenjunga, and Pilani itself is a very good place. So be thorough with all these locations and what are their historic relevance, what is the present scenario there. One thing of my observation is, when the question is asked, try to be as concise as possible. If you can finish your answer in 2 lines or 3 lines, do not stretch it. The more you stretch, the more points you are giving to the board member, that they will dig into that and they will just take the whole flow of interview to somewhere else. So you can control where you want to take your interview. So be very concise, and if you are using a word in your answer, be thorough that you should know what the next question can come up on that, right? Your answer on why you want to be an IAS officer and the situational question also was very well tackled. Most of the answers were very well balanced, articulated. You have a very good knowledge, content base is very good, and your communication skills are also at par. And as sir said, just 1-2 points, and I think like you're going to score very, very good marks in your interview. Just be the best of you, the rest would be fine. All the very best.
I think I was happy with the interview. Just I'll say, brush up your PSIR once.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not only the IR, the PS part also you have to. Might be the other panel list is from PSIR. So might be questions, you say international relations, might be another question from the the theoretical part comes upon. So just brush up that.
Fine, sir.
So Shubham, you have done well. Most of the answers are very good. The most important point is when I asked you regarding the student situation, when I gave you the situation, you managed to get out of it, which was good part. But good comprehensive answer is required. Why not to select West Bengal cadre? Have a prepared answer, good answer.
Fine, sir. I do.
Then when you talked about chicken neck corridor in your answer, your interview could have gone in another direction. Ensure if you are using such words as ma'am mentioned, please be prepared.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned in one of your answers regarding the increase in the arms expenditure. And recently parliamentary panel has said that we are already doing good expenditure on imports of the arms. So there you are contradictory in your statement.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you this question, but then I realized to give you in the feedback. Okay?
Okay, sir.